Hello designers, in this video I'll give you a beginner-friendly walkthrough of Affinity version 3's Vector Studio, covering almost all the tools so you understand what they do and how to use them. Let's go! So you've just opened Affinity version 3 for the first time and you're presented with this welcome screen. This is basically where we're going to set up our new document. So to set up a new document, you click on the green plus icon there, but I'll just walk you through what's on screen right now. We're basically home. So home there, you can see we have recent documents because I've been working on a few documents there, my favorite documents there, my presets, and a few tutorials underneath. Basically, home is a collection of all the rest of the headings you see. So recents, learn, my templates. I haven't set any up yet, but I have got a tutorial for this in version 2. Maybe it's still relevant, go check it out. And then favorites at the end there. So this next icon there is the folder icon. It just says open. If you click on that, it will open your computer's file system and you can open up a file from there. We're going to click on New. This is to create a new document. From here, we just choose our document settings. If you know exactly the size you want, you could just input the information on the right-hand side there and click on Create Document. But there's also a bunch of presets that you can use on the left-hand side. I've created a couple of my own presets right at the top there. And if you look up here, Preset Orientation. Right now, they're all landscape, but I can click on this and they're all portrait. So I'll just keep it on landscape for now and just scroll down. You can see the color spaces are RGB or CMYK. Some of them are in inches and pixels and millimeters. They're all presets, so you decide which one you want to create. And I will just choose this one here, FHD 1080p. I'll select it, and as I select it, you can see all of the values change on the right-hand side, and you can go ahead and change them further if you wish. So you can change the document units. Instead of pixels, you can go to inches, feet, yards, dots per inch, 72. I'm not going to change any of these for this one. This is the document size we're going to create for the tutorial. Page width and page height, basically, if you wanted to kind of lock in that aspect ratio, you would click on that. And as you change this value here, the other value would change with it. I'll just leave it off for now. I'm not going to bother changing anything. Color format, RGB, good for screens, online use, and you can change that to CMYK, for instance, more for print. And you've got color profile. And if you want to start with a transparent background, you know, like with a checkered image at the back, good for stickers and things like that, you would just toggle that on. Same thing for artboards. If you're creating multiple versions of a poster, for instance, you would click artboards on. But honestly, none of this matters because you can change it whenever you want. Even halfway through doing it, you can make any changes, okay? So image placement. This is how Affinity handles its files. So imagine you make an Affinity file and then you start dragging on images like photos, JPEGs onto your document. Basically, if you choose Prefer Linked, it would see the photo that you dragged on there as somewhere on your computer. And if one day you deleted that photo and then you went to open up your Affinity file, that photo would no longer be there and you'd be prompted to go and find it. If you click on Prefer Embedded, it will embed that JPEG into the document, so you won't need to worry about any of that. So the rest of these settings here are more for page layout. So if you're creating a book or a brochure, maybe you want a multi-page one, or you want margins and bleeds, they're all there. And for the architects, you have drawing scale, okay? So we're just gonna keep it as it is. I'll just quickly show you how to create a preset. If you're continuously working with the same kind of size document and settings, this is what you do. Choose what size you want. I'll just change this so it's slightly different to 2000. And I'll go up and I'll just call it random. And I'll press return. Now I can just click on create preset. As soon as I click it, there it is right at the top, ready to go. Every time I open Affinity, it will be there. I can click on it and create document. I'm just going to delete it because I don't actually need that random one. And I'll just click on 1920 by 1080, create document. And this is the user interface. To make sense of it, let's just break it down. The rectangle in the middle, think of this as your page or your canvas or a piece of paper. And we want to design things on here, so we'll need tools. So the tools are on the left-hand side. Think of this as your pencil case. So you might want to take out a pen and start drawing on a piece of paper. Right at the top here, this is called our toolbar. And this contains quick actions such as flip horizontal, flip vertical, and so on. On the right hand side, we have our studio. This is basically a group of panels, completely customizable. As you can see, I can switch through them here. They usually contain the color panel. This is basically where you can manipulate your design further. So whatever you put on the page there, you can select them and change the color. There's many different options here, okay? Underneath, you have your layers, and each time you draw out a shape on the piece of paper, for instance, a new layer will appear here, and so on. Okay, the other thing, just underneath this toolbar, there is a blank one here. This is called the context toolbar. So every time you select a tool, I'll select the pen tool here, you will get new options that all relate to the pen tool. And I'll switch to the pencil tool and you can see new options appear. And at the top left is the Affinity logo. If you select that, it basically takes you home to the welcome screen, the one I just showed you. And we also have a group of icons right at the top here. These are called studios. And as I cycle through them, notice something. The tools are changing, the panels on the right hand side are changing, and we have some new panels that sometimes appear on the left hand side. So think of each of these as a different workspace for a different workflow. So if you're more into graphic design and vectors, you would use Vector. Think Illustrator. If you choose Pixel Studio, this is more for raster-based image editing. Think Photoshop. And if you select Layout, this is more for designing books, brochures, catalog. Think InDesign. And the last studio we have here is called Canva AI. And this studio basically allows you to use AI to create your designs or edit your designs. For example, typing out something and letting AI generate an image from whatever you've typed out. Affinity is a powerful app and it combines multiple pieces of software in one. So traditionally you might have had vector software completely separate on your computer, and you might have had a photo editing piece of software and a page layout piece of software. Now they are all in one app, which is very, very handy. And these aren't the only studios that are available. If we click on the three dots, this is our studio manager, and you can see you can toggle them on or off. And there's a few that have not been toggled on by default, such as Slice. It basically allows you to bulk export. And if we keep going down, we have retouching, color grading, typography, and compositing. And you can see you can just toggle them on or off at your pleasure. And you can also see that I have one that's called Artistwright. And if I toggle that on and select it, you can see the tools change. I have many more options up the top here in the toolbar, and this is one I created myself. So Affinity is very customizable. You can customize it as you please. So although there's vector software, pixel software, and layout, these are essentially presets, and they're just organized in a certain way to allow you to work on either photo editing, vector, or pixel. But you can actually create it however you like. So that is what I have done there. And to create your own one, just go to Create Studio, and then you can clone from, you see here, clone from, maybe you want to clone from Vector, and then you would name it. I'll just name it Test, and you just choose a color, choose an icon if you wish, or you can add your own photo here, and then you can go ahead and press Create. And this test studio is now live, and then you can customize the tools you want on the left-hand side just by right-clicking, and then go to Customize Tools. And all the tools that are available are here, and you'd simply drag and drop them onto the left-hand side as you please. Up here is a drop-down menu, and you can choose whether you want vector, tools, general tools, shape, photo, all of that. Okay, so you would just drag like so and drop. Okay, also to customize the top toolbar, you'd right-click there, Customize Toolbar, and you see a load of options here to help you flip horizontal, flip vertical, align to the center. And again, you would just drag and drop like this. And you can also drag off anything you don't want. And also for the panels over here, you can customize that by just clicking on this drop down arrow, going down to panels, clicking on that, and then you have a list and you can toggle them on or off. Look how many there are. So basically you can create whatever design program you want from this, set up the way you want. Okay, I'll go and delete that so we can get started on our tutorial. If you ever get stuck or just need some help in using Affinity, remember you can always watch my other videos, or you can go ahead and select the help button in the top right, the question mark icon. When you click on it, you'll go through to this box here. If I select help, you can type in anything here and it will tell you about it. There's also an AI assistant called Ask. And when you click on that, you can type anything you want into this bar here. So where is the pen tool? Press return. The AI is going to think and then give me its answer. The pen tool is located in the tools panel, typically shown on the left-hand side. Yes, it is. That's correct. So that's very handy. Now that we have a good understanding of the user interface and the studios, let's just note a couple of things, okay? You've just created your document and perhaps you chose the wrong size. You can change it, don't worry. Up here is document setup. Remember, we're in Vector Studio right now and we're using the move tool. Document setup is just there. I can click on it and I can change any value I want and then click OK and it will be reflected on our canvas here. So the tools on the left-hand side, let's go ahead and select one of them. You can see some of them have these little arrows next to them, and that means there's more tools inside. And it works a couple of ways, okay? You can long press on a tool, and then it will reveal the tools inside, or you can just click it once, and this panel appears. These are called subtools, and you can just select whichever shape you want from there. If you don't like this appearing every time, when you just select once, you can go ahead and right-click down here, go to Hide Subtools, and then from there, every time you select a tool, you just click once, it will select whatever's showing. You can long press to reveal the further tools inside, okay? So we're in Vector Studio and I just want to cover the basic mechanics of how Affinity works, and we'll also work through the tools and the panels over there, just so you can see how it's all put together, okay? So we'll start off with the rectangle tool on the left-hand side. Go ahead and select that, and I'll just click and drag out a rectangle and let go. So it's defaulted to gray here, but if you look over on the right hand side, you can see under the layers panel, we have a new layer and it's called rectangle because we just used the rectangle tool. By the way, you can rename these layers. So just double tap on there and you can call it layer 1 and press return. And I'll draw out another rectangle by clicking and dragging. And this time I'm going to hold shift to keep it in perfect proportion so it's equal both sides, and let go. So now you see that we have two layers here in the layers panel. So basically, every time you use a tool to create something new on the page, it will turn up as a new layer, and you can keep them organized and name them and all that. But I want to show you how you can move them around now. So we're still in the rectangle tool. So we're going to switch to the move tool. You can press V on your keyboard, or you can go up to the top left and choose it. It's really important to remember the shortcuts for the tools you'll be needing to use all the time. So now I can select both of these layers. They're kind of light gray right now, so I'm just going to change the color of them. So I will just go ahead and select some kind of color up here. You see these two little nodes, you can choose the color from there, and then you can choose the tint or shade here, and that will do for that one. And for this shape here, I just select it, you see, because I'm in the move tool. I'll just choose some kind of, let's choose an orange color. Okay, so I've got two colors. How can we manipulate these shapes further? Well, you can see this line around it and these dots. This is basically called a bounding box, and it allows us to rotate. If I click that one and rotate like this, and whilst rotating, if I hold down the shift key, I can rotate in 15-degree increments like this. And I can hold any of the points here, click and drag to squash it, or I can drag from the side, and I can even go to the corner there, and it kind of tells you what it can do as you hover, okay? So I'm going to drag the pink box over the other layer 1 shape here, and you can see it's overlapping here. In the layers panel, you can see on the top is the pink box, and that's why it's overlapping. So anything that's on top will be shown first, and anything else underneath will be underneath, like a layer stack. You can change that by simply clicking and dragging in the layers panel behind and letting go, and now you can see it's behind. And you can also use the toolbar up here with the quick actions such as arrange. So if I click on arrange, you can see I can go forward 1 or forward to front if you have many layers. So I'll just click forward 1. And you can see it's basically done the same thing. There's many ways to do the same thing in this program, so the more you know, the better. I'll just quickly show you, although it's a little advanced at this stage, I will show you a shortcut to do it on the keyboard. So we have the pink one selected. I'll hold Command and left bracket key. That sends it to the back. I hold Command and right bracket key, and it sends it to the front. Easy. Also, let's use one other toolbar quick action. So I'll just push it to the side a little bit like this, maybe make it a little bit longer. And now we'll go up to transform. So I'll click on that and we have loads of options. One of them is flip horizontal. So I'll click that and it's flipped horizontal. So there's many options here that will quickly change how your design looks. So we'll go through a few of them later, but let's concentrate on this color tab here. We have this layer selected, the pink one, and I'll go up and I'll just show you. This donut here is called a stroke and that's your outline. So right now it's black. You can't really see it, but it is a thin black line there. That's called your stroke. And you can increase the thickness of that by going to the stroke tab up here. So there it is, width, and I can just drag this up so it's a lot thicker. And that's done. You can also change that by going up to the context toolbar here and selecting this one here, edit stroke settings, and you've got exactly the same panel as over there. So many ways to do the same thing. Going back to the color tab, I will select fill again here. And by the way, if you wanted to erase the fill or the stroke, you just select whichever one you want and you can click on this, set fill to none, and you see there'll be nothing in there. If you make a mistake and you want to go back one step, it's that universal key, Command and Z, or Control on Z on Windows. So I'm pressing Command and Z. You can see the shortcut down there. I've gone back one step. Great. So also in the color tab, you see opacity at the bottom here. We can just drag this down. You can see we're on the fill right now. It's giving some transparency to the fill there. And also, little secret one, if you click on this little circle here, if you click it once, it changes to noise and we can drag this up and now we've got some noise in that color there. So I'll just drag that back down again and reset it. Okay, let me just delete this shape here. So we're left with this rectangle. Remember, we created this using the shape tool, the rectangle tool over here. And in order for me to manipulate it further, I need to convert it to curves. Now I want you to pay attention. Up here on the left-hand side, I am in the move tool. You see the cursor? Up here in the context toolbar, you will see this option here, convert to curves. When I click on that, notice how the circular nodes have turned into square nodes here. And when I select one of them, you can see my cursor has changed, hasn't it? It's no longer the move tool, but now it is the node tool. And you see with the node tool, you can edit existing curves, lines, and shapes. And it's got a whole load of shortcuts here that you can adhere to if you want to do all of that. So I'll just show you the basics. So I can just click on it and drag them around. And with this, you can add further nodes just by clicking on this line. Oops, I'll click again up here, click on this line, and I've added another node. And I can play around with that, okay? And remember, each tool has a kind of set of subtools in the context toolbar. So anytime you select something here, you'll see this part change. This is the context toolbar. Remember, you can double click and drag it near to wherever you want to work. I'll just double tap it again. So up here, there's a bunch of options. And if I just select one of these sharp nodes here, you can see it's sharp because it's a square. I can go up to the context toolbar and select one of these. Now, there's many options, but I'll just show you this one. Convert to smooth. Look at the shape of the node change from square to circular. And it's given me more options. It's now got a handle that I can move around however I wish. So the possibilities are endless at this point. And you could go to this line over here and you could just click and drag out. And then when you go to select one of the sharp nodes, you can see there's a handle there. So you can further play with that. And you can convert these back to sharp nodes as well by just going up to the context toolbar and clicking on convert to sharp. And if you wanted to use a shortcut to make this a smooth node, you just hold down Option or Alt on the keyboard and click once, and now it's turned into that. Or you can just double tap and it turns it into a sharp one, double tap and it turns it into a smooth one. Multiple ways of doing the same thing. And to get you used to switching between the tools using the shortcuts, we're currently in the node tool, but what if I wanted to move it over there to the left? Well, I just press V on the keyboard and now I can move it over there. And if I wanted to edit the nodes, I'd press A. A is the shortcut for the node tool, and I can start playing around with that. So V, move, A, move around. So you've seen me selecting each individual node like this, but you can actually just click and drag the marquee over two of them and move them like this, okay? And from this point, I'll just show you a couple more shortcuts that will come in handy when you're creating. So I'll just switch to the move tool again, and I'll just make this smaller. I'll shift and drag the corner in like that. So if I wanted to make a copy of it, I could either do this, Command C, Command V, copy and paste, right? I'll delete that, or I can press Command J. This is power duplicate. So I can press Command J, and that's made a duplicate in the layers panel, and I could just move it across here. And from this point, I could just press Command J again, and it will duplicate the action I just took. Really cool. Okay, let me delete those. Another way you can duplicate is to just hold down Command, click and drag, and you've just got a duplicate that way. Okay, let's talk about the Artboard tool. Right now I just have one page, one canvas in my document, but what if I wanted to have multiple? I have this design in the middle, but maybe I want to make different variations. So what I would do is head to the Artboard tool on the left-hand side, click on it, and then up there in the context toolbar, I'll click on Insert Artboard. Now that I've done that, you can see in the Layers panel, it now says Artboard 1. And I have a little drop-down arrow, and just inside there is my design, okay? So you can see now I have all of these different plus buttons everywhere. So if I click on this plus button, it adds exactly the same size document or canvas that I had on the left-hand side. And you can just keep pressing these as much as you want. Or I can delete that. I'll just press Command Z to go back. And I'll click on the Move tool, okay? So I can select the artboard here, and then I can make a duplicate. So what if I just press Command C, Command V, copy and paste, and then I just drag that across. Now I have two artboards, and you can rename the artboards here just by double tapping, and you could call this Artboard 2 and press OK. So this is a cool way of creating multiple variations of your design or multiple pages. Okay, let's continue working through the tools so you can get a better understanding of what each of them does. I'll try to be brief so you can get to creating. So I have my shape selected. I'm going to go up to the Node tool, and I'm going to go to Point Transform tool. And with this one, you can see there's a little crosshair there. So I'll just test out what it does before I do anything, okay? So basically it's rotating around that center point there, that transform origin. I can click on it and move it to a different location. And now you see it kind of rotates and scales around that point over there. And that's the basics of what that does. Next up is the corner tool, and this will allow you to smooth off any sharp corners. So I have my shape selected, and I'm going to go onto the left-hand side, choose corner tool, shortcut is C. You can either choose just one node or multiple by just clicking and dragging over them like this. And then from this point, you can just click and drag like that and let go. But remember, in the context toolbar, there's always more options. So if we go back to the corner tool, you see up here in the context toolbar, we have options. So we can either have rounded like we have, or straight, or maybe you want concave or cutout, and you can change them after you've done it, or maybe even just one. Just click on one and just change that a little bit. And I want to show you something, one little thing to note if you're using this. If then you go ahead and scale it down, so I'm on the Move tool, I'm going to scale it down, you can see it doesn't really scale well like this. So what you would do when you're in the corner tool, you would see this Bake Appearance option. You'd click on that, and it basically converts it all to curves. That's why you can see all the nodes. And now if I click on V and I rescale, it scales well. Okay, now we're going to test out the contour tool. Shortcut is O, and this basically will allow you to offset the stroke of a curve or a shape. So I've got it selected. I'm just going to click and drag inwards, and you can see it's offsetting the path. And it's a little bit rounded here, isn't it? I can click out like this, and it will be rounded there. If I want to change how it looks, remember, context toolbar. Everything in the context toolbar will always be related to whichever tool you're using. So right now it's on rounded. If I just want to keep them as straight edges, I click on miter joins, and you see now when I scale in and out, it's kind of as it should be. But you know, that's up to you and how creative you get. And then remember, when you're done, click Bake Appearance, and that's it. Next up is the pen tool, and this is the one you'll probably be using a lot in the Vector Studio. Shortcut is P, so look up in the context toolbar. These are all the options you have that are related to the pen tool. You've got your fill, stroke, and stroke thickness, and you've got a few modes here: pen mode, smart mode, polygon mode, and line mode. Let's just quickly go through them. So to begin with, I'll just click once, and you've got a sharp node there. If I go down and click once more, we've got another sharp node, and that's just a straight line, okay? And if I click again, you can see there's just a sharp corner. I'll just click once more here. And what if from here we wanted to start creating much smoother corners? Well, if you just click and drag like this, you see you get these handles here now. So if I just continue that along like that, and I'll just click once here, you see there's a little circle there. That means you're going to complete the shape. So if I just click that, it's complete. So that's the normal pen mode. Let's go and use smart mode. And I'll try and use exactly the same actions I did before. So if I go down here and click once, you see they look slightly different. They're kind of round, these nodes here. If I click once again, you see it's already giving me a kind of smooth node. It's smart. It's trying to figure out what I want to do. And if I click and drag, it won't let me. Okay, it's just going to decide what I want to do based on where I place my pen. Okay, so there we go. That's smart mode. The next one is polygon mode. And with this one, you can only draw straight curves. Okay, so 1, 2, I'll click and drag and you see I can't get that smooth node. So you're going to be fine using this if you just want straight edges there. And the last one, line mode, is basically if I click, and then I try to click another point here, you see it only draws individual lines. So this is what you're getting with this mode. So I'll just go back to the normal pen mode and you can see these two here, right? Use line style, use fill. If I start drawing out some kind of circular shape here, you can see up here, I can just toggle this line style on or off. So I'll do that. And you can see the stroke has gone and now I can get rid of the fill. And it's taking all the information for what that should be from the color tab here, okay? And that's the basics of the pen tool. Okay, an important tip for beginners, if you have started drawing out a shape like this and you haven't finished it yet, and you decide to click on the move tool and perhaps like move this around, and then you want to go back to this shape and finish it off. So how do you do it? So you would think that you would press pen tool, okay? And then maybe you click on that and you keep drawing. But that is actually wrong, because if we go back to the move tool, you can see this is a separate shape here. So I'll delete that. We'll enter the pen tool again. And you see this point here. What you need to do is hold down Command, and that basically toggles to the node tool. You see the icons changed? Select the node again. And now we can continue drawing from it. And you can see it's working because the fill is being filled with it. And that's it. That's how you do it. The next tool is the pencil tool, and the shortcut for this one is N. This one will allow you to make some freehand drawings, okay? So if I just click and drag, you can see I'll just draw some kind of wave here, not very good. There we go, that's what the pencil tool does. You have many options in the context toolbar to allow you to make slightly better drawings. So one of them is stabilizer. So if I click on stabilizer here, and I keep it on rope mode, and I keep that percentage quite high so it's really smooth, I can try draw out another wave. So let me try again. So if I click and drag, you see there's a rope, and this will allow me to draw a much smoother one. By the way, I always draw this wave in my tutorials, and that came out a lot better, didn't it? There's also a window mode up here, which acts like a rubber band rather. So here you see the faster I go, the length increases, and as I slow down, it gets shorter. So 2 modes there. And also you have another option up here. So if I just draw that, I'll just take the stabilizer off for now. It's sculpt mode. So if I toggle that on and I go to the last node that I drew, you can see a little plus icon. If I click and drag, I can continue along that path. And that's sculpt mode. And also there is this here, curve fitting smoothness. So if I just try and draw a kind of really squiggly line, I'll just try and make it bad on purpose. There it is. And if I go up to this curve fitting smoothness and I just change it, the higher up I go, the less nodes will be kind of included, which usually means it's going to be a lot smoother, and the less they will add more, okay? And the last one I'll show you here is in settings. So if you go to settings, under here is pressure. And this is better if you have a graphics tablet. I'm actually using the trackpad on a MacBook right now, so I'll just show you how it works. So if I click and drag, it's a very thin line. Don't know if you can see that. And the more I press in, the thicker it gets. Let me zoom into that actually. So I'll click and I'll be really light on the trackpad and I'll start pressing in, and then I'll ease up. See, it's quite difficult actually. But there we go. So it's gone from thin to thick, and this is way better if you use a graphics tablet. The more you press in or ease up, the thinner it gets. Okay, let's move on. The next tool I want to talk about is the stroke width tool. So if you remember back just a couple of seconds ago, I was using the pencil tool with pressure, and it wasn't working too well because I didn't have a graphics tablet. I was just using the trackpad on my MacBook. So luckily there's a solution to that, and that is the stroke width tool. So right in front of me, I have a curve just with a stroke that's all the same thickness all the way along. So if I wanted to make the left side a lot thinner and the right side a lot thicker, then I would go ahead and use the stroke width tool. So shortcut is W, click on it. I could just select the left side and just drag inwards like that. And you see, very easy to do. And on the right side, I'll just make this a little bit thicker. And the cool thing with this is I can go in and apply a pressure point wherever I want. So I could add a few there, and maybe I want to make this bit a little bit slimmer here, and this bit I can drag up over here. So I have quite a lot of control here in how I want my curve to appear. So this is a very handy tool if you don't have a graphics tablet, or you just want to have a little bit more control over your design. The next tool I want to cover is the Path Brush tool, and I've included a few examples so you can see what it can achieve. On the left hand side, go to the pencil tool. It's kind of embedded within there. Long press and there's Path Brush tool. So now that I've selected it, let's go over to the right hand side and select Path Brushes, because we're going to choose what kind of brush we're going to use. So there's a drop down menu here, and here's all the different categories. We'll just stick with image brushes for now, and I'll just cycle through. You can see there's loads of options, and I'll choose rope. So from here, I will just click and drag out my rope, make it a little bit longer, and there we go. It's pretty cool, isn't it? It looks very realistic. Let's just zoom into it. Very realistic. Remember, we are in Vector Studio, so don't assume that this is vector. If I zoom in all the way, you can see it starts to pixelate a little bit. So this is because it is essentially a raster image, a PNG, that's either stretched or repeated along a vector path. So if I switch over to the node tool, which is A, you can see the path is there, and we have our nodes just like we're used to. And I can still manipulate it and move it around and drag out that handle a little bit to smooth it out. So that's why it's called a path brush, okay? So if I switch back to the path brush tool again, and we can look in the context toolbar, and you can change the width of it, the opacity of it, but you've got this button that says more. So if I click on that, here you can see right down below, this is the PNG that they've used, and you can decide whether it repeats or stretches along the body. And there's lots of settings here you can change, but we'll just close that for now. And of course you have other options such as the stabilizer, just like we have done with the pencil tool. So that is the path brush tool. Oh, I also wanted to mention that you can actually select your brush and change it, even if it's been painted out already. You can just change it to a different brush and just cycle through which one you want. And of course, you can use that stroke width tool on here as well. So I can switch over to the stroke width tool, click it and drag that in. There we go. Moving on. If I want to cut up my design into different pieces, I will use the knife tool. So that's the one we'll be covering next. On the left-hand side, underneath the pencil tool, you will see knife tool. Shortcut for this one is K on the keyboard. So you can see we have some options in the context toolbar. I will just leave stabilizer on. So in order to cut your design, you need to select it first. So I'll just click once and then click and drag, and we'll lop the top of this egg off. I'll just switch to the move tool by pressing V. And now I'll just select the top half, and there we go. It's lopped off. The knife tool. If I want to fill my design with something other than a solid color like I have here, I would use the fill tool. So on the left hand side, there's the fill tool. The shortcut for this one is G on the keyboard. So I'll just go ahead and select it and click and drag. And you can see it's created a gradient here, 2 different colors each side, or different shades. Up in the context toolbar, you can see context. Fill, do we want this to apply to our fill or stroke? My design only has a fill, so I'll keep it on that. Type, we have many different options here. There's solid, that's what we're used to so far in this tutorial. Linear is the linear gradient we're using right now, and there's a bunch more options. But I'll just show you that each one of these color nodes here, you can change. So this one on the bottom right, I can just change to a different color here, make it a little bit brighter, and I could just leave it like that. I can also add more nodes in between, and I can just change the color of that as well. There we go, it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? But also, I just delete that little node there. Also, let's change it to a different one. So elliptical, this is a circle, of course. So perhaps I would want to have this at the top here. Maybe that's kind of like the reflection. I'll make it a slightly different color here, maybe a bit brighter. And now it looks a little bit more like a spherical object. I'll just press V so we can get rid of that fill tool. So it looks a little bit more three-dimensional like this, okay? So you have many options in the fill tool, and you can even add bitmaps and meshes and hatches, conical. There's many to explore. So that's the fill tool. If you want to add some transparency to part of your design, then you'd use the transparency tool. So I'll just select this circle here, and I will go to the fill tool, and underneath there is the transparency tool, okay? So with that selected, all I have to do is just click and drag like that. And you see white is revealing what's underneath and black is concealing it. And again, in the context toolbar, you have different types, so linear, elliptical, etc. So this is a pretty cool tool if you want to add that transparency. Okay, let's talk about blend modes. Now, these modes are useful when you want to control how your object reacts to the layers underneath. So if you go over to the layers panel, you'll see this little drop down menu. These are the blend modes. So if I click on it and just cycle through, you can see how it changes on the left hand side there. I'll just leave it on linear light and I'll drag it around so you can kind of see what's going on here. This circle has a gradient. It goes from like purple to blue. So I'm getting a really nice effect from this one. So it's just another handy tool to help you in your design journey. You can change the opacity of your layer just by clicking this and sliding it down. So it's completely transparent. Maybe you want it just kind of like midway. Okay, moving on. At the start of the tutorial, I showed you how to use the rectangle tool. And you might remember that inside here, there were a group of other shapes here. So don't believe that these are just simple shapes and that's it. They are very smart. So let's go ahead and test out the cog tool. So here's some examples of one I've made. There is the cog over there. So if I zoom in and draw out our cog, you can see that there's these red dots all over the place. And even in the context toolbar, you can see there's different values that we can change: inner radius, whole radius, tooth size, and the red dots basically represent all of that up there. So you can go ahead and customize it as much as you want by just dragging these little dots in and out and just play around with it until you get kind of something that you want, okay? So we started off with a cog, and now we have a flower basically, and I can change the amount of petals there are just by going to teeth and just dragging that down. So these are very smart shapes and you can create so much from it. So even from things like a pie chart, for instance, so we can use the pie tool. I can drag that out. And from here, or maybe even like time running out. So look, you can create a piece of a pie all the way up to a Pac-Man, for instance. So this is a really cool set of options for you to explore. The next tool I want to show you is the Shape Builder tool. And this one is extremely useful in merging parts of your design together or subtracting from your design, okay? So let's test it out on this bunch of shapes here. They're just all individual shapes. And in order to use this tool, you need to select all of the layers or all of the shapes that you want to include in your shape building. Now I'll go to the left hand side and I'll choose the Shape Builder tool. Shortcut for this one is S on the keyboard. Before I go ahead and select anything, I'll just show you the context toolbar. There's a few options. You've got the plus button to merge shapes together. You've got the minus button to subtract. And you've got the last one, which basically creates a new shape from whichever areas you select, okay? So when you're going to select your areas, there's different drag methods, okay? I'll just leave it on freehand, but there's line and marquee as well, okay? And then there's an option to clean up internal curves, etc., okay? So let's just get started. So as I hover over each portion, they kind of get highlighted, don't they? So right now I'll just click and select, and you see each portion that I select ends up with stripes, and I'll just keep drawing along. This is the freehand drag method, and I'll just go down there and up and around and leave it at that. So all of these shapes are selected. Now I'll choose which action I want to use, okay? So now I'll click on plus. And now it's added them all together. So now this is just one layer. So if I just go back one step, I'll just press Command Z and I'll switch back to the Move tool. You can do it a different way. So I can select all of these layers and go back to the Shape Builder tool. And then I can just click on the plus button first, okay? And now anything that I drag over will just automatically add them together. So I'll let go and you see it's already been added together. So that's the Shape Builder tool, can come in really handy. Let's try one more, okay? So I'll select all of the layers I want, and this time we will subtract. So Shape Builder tool, I'll head up and I'll click on select, so it will automatically do it. And now I'll just click and drag like this all the way around and let go. And it's basically just subtracted. It's cut into this circle. I'll press Command Z to go back and I'll just take it off the minus and select add. Now I could just click and drag that and I'm pretty much done here. So I'll press V and look, you've got a Saturn. So that was very quick to do and a tool that you should consider when making your designs. The next tool I want to cover is the Vector Flood Fill tool, and this one will allow you to flood a shape, part of your design, with a color or even a bitmap. So this is how it works. Go to the left hand side and long press. It's underneath the Shape Builder tool. It's the Vector Flood Fill tool. Now go up to color and choose a color you want to flood with, and from this point you just click once and it's flooded. And I'll just keep clicking and they keep getting flooded. Okay, so you have some more options in the context toolbar up here. And insertion modes is what I want to tell you the difference between these two. It's inside and in between. And this is useful for when you have overlapping shapes. So I'll just press Command Z to go back, press on the move tool and just move this over here. And I'll select both of these shapes and go back on the Vector Flood Fill tool. So it's on inside right now. So when I hover this tool over each area, you can see they get highlighted. So I'll just tap once in the middle here. Now I'll switch to the move tool and we'll see what's happened. Basically, it's flooded inside one of the shapes. So there's the polygon tool in the layers panel. And you can see if I double tap, it's inside the shape. You see, it's clipped inside. And you can go ahead and bring that out on the layers panel if you want and just delete it. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Let's test the other way. So back to the Vector Flood Fill tool and I'll go to Insert in Between. So now I'll go ahead and do the same thing. I'll click on the Move tool again, which is V, and you can see it's on its own layer. There it is. So there's a few different ways of using this tool. And also just right at the end there, you can see it says Set Bitmap Fill. When you click on that, it'll open your file system and you'll choose your raster image to fill these shapes with. And I've made a tutorial on this previously, which is kind of the same in version 2. So go ahead and check that out for more of these options and what they do. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. If you want to start working with text, Affinity has a couple of options. You have the Artistic Text tool. Basically, this is for short, flexible text. Think titles, logos, headings, anything you want to freely resize, rotate, or stylize, okay? The Frame Text tool is for longer text blocks. If you're creating paragraphs, lists, captions, anything that needs clean alignment and consistent spacing, you choose this one. So let's choose Artistic Text tool. I'll start off by just creating a heading, so I'll just click and drag up till I'm happy with the size of the text. And then I'll just start typing artistic. You can see in the context toolbar, there are all the options you'd come to expect when working with text. So you can change the font and the font sort of medium, bold, all that kind of thing. And you can go over, change the font color and also the highlight color. Let's just change that. I'll change it to some kind of pink color there. And of course you can align left, align center, all of these kind of options you can play with this, and you can see it's not kerned very well, is it? So if you're interested in doing that, just hold down the Option or Alt key on your keyboard. It's Option on Mac, and just press the right bracket key or left bracket key. And you can start adjusting the space between them so it looks a little bit more balanced, okay? So this is basically the Artistic Text tool. But what if I wanted to have a paragraph underneath? Well, I'd switch over to the Frame Text tool. So let's just go ahead and do that. So to start off with, you can see the icon has changed to a T, and from here I would just click and drag out my text box. And I'm not going to go ahead and write anything right now, so I'll just right click and I'll select Insert Filler Text. And now that's filled up, okay? So again, you have the same options at the top there, plus a couple more options as well. But from here, I can resize this box and the text will change with it, okay? And I can do it on the vertical as well and reveal more text underneath. And also I can duplicate this. Let's say if I wanted 2 columns, then I just switch to the Move tool and I'll just duplicate this. So I'll just hold Command and click and drag. And now I have 2 text boxes. If I wanted to link them, for instance, I could click on this one here, and then I would choose this box, and now it would link whatever text is in this box and continue along here. And you can see there's a little I logo down there. That means that some of the text is hidden, so you'd kind of drag further down or out until the text is revealed. Okay, so that is the basics of the text options in Affinity. Okay, the next tool is the Place tool, where you can place images, PDFs, different file types, even Affinity file types, and embed them in your document. So left hand side, there it is. I'll click on it. My computer file system is open. I'll just select an image, a JPEG for now, click open. And now from here, I could just click and drag out to whatever size I want and let go. If you look up in the context toolbar, you can replace that image just by clicking it and choosing a different one. Let's choose a different JPEG. There we go. I've replaced it. And you can go into Develop, Liquify, Tone Map. So I'll just click Develop real quick. See, we have a bunch of options. Maybe I want to change the exposure slightly and up the black a little bit, make it look worse. And when I'm done, I can go up to Develop. And you see the edits are live there and it's reflected in the image. So let's go back to the Place tool again. I'll click on it and I will open this PDF and click open, and I will just click and drag out. And this is a PDF. If you look in the layers panel, it says .pdf. So if I double click on it or double tap, you can see it opens up the embedded PDF. So from here, I can move stuff around. You can see it's all still vector. So any changes I make here, let's make that one red. And I can go back and it's reflected in the embedded PDF. So that's the Place tool. Also, whilst I'm here, I will talk about the Vector Crop tool. Just underneath here, select that, and this will crop your image non-destructively. So we'll start off with the PDF layer. I'll just grab the handle here and click and drag it like that. And you can see it's cropped it, but if we look in the layers panel, you can see it's just created a clipping mask. And actually this is all reversible by just deleting that clipping mask layer or going back over to the box and just dragging it back out, okay? And this also works with raster images. So this is a JPEG. I'll just click and drag again. Very cool. And we also have the measure tool, which of course measures things. So let me go and select it and I'll just measure this box here. So I'll click and drag and that is 4 inches. Okay, let's measure the gap. Okay, that's 2 inches. Also in the context toolbar, you'll see drawing scale and then assign drawing scale. So I'll just go ahead and measure that 4-inch box again. And I'll go up to assign drawing scale. I'll say this box is actually 10 inches and I'll click apply. Now I'll measure the gap again. And you see now it's 5 inches. So that drawing scale is applied to everything on this document now. And right next to the measure tool, we also have the area tool. So let's go ahead and select that. This is more for architects measuring to make sure their plans are all correct. So I've just got this little box and I'll just start measuring, okay? So I'm just going to click on it once and you see the length, that's of the red line here, is 18.721 inches. And if I just hover over the center, it will show me the area squared, like the internal area size is 17 point blah, blah, blah inches squared. And again, I can go up, change the drawing scale 1 to 1, or I can change the mode. Right now it's on full edges. I can go on cusped segments. When I click on that and I go down, it can measure individual segments. So just this part here is 2.24 inches, and then when I go on here it's 5.888 inches. So that's the area tool. Now I want to show you the color picker tool, where basically you can take a sample of any color and apply it to any shape. So I want to take this yellow color here and place it on this gray box here. So with the gray box selected, I will head over to our color picker tool. I'll just click it once. Shortcut is I, and now you see I have this kind of sample area. I'll just hover over this yellow color, click it once, and it's applied it. Okay, another way you can do this, just so you know, I'll just press Command Z, is when that's selected, you could go up to the color tab and you can see this color picker tool here. You just click it and drag it and let go and it will apply it. And we also have the style picker tool, which will save you a lot of time. Basically, this allows you to copy the style of one object and paste it onto another. So I have some text here, which is still typable, and I'm going to go down and choose the style picker tool. It's just down here. And now we've got to load it up. So if you look in the context toolbar, this is what they mean by style: stroke, fill, layer opacity, layer effects, all of these things here. I'll just leave them all on. And I will sample from the yellow cat word. So I've clicked it and it's applied everything to that word over there. And now that it's loaded up, I can actually click on everything and it will apply it to everything that I touch, even drag. And there we go. So that's pretty cool. Let me just press Command Z a couple of times. And once I'm done with that, I need to go up and click on Unload. So that's to empty the picker. So now it's empty again. So from this point, I will just select another one. So I'm going to select this box here and I'll go back to the style picker tool and I'll just click on this one and it's copied it right over. Very cool, very quick. This is a super handy tool. Get used to using it. And the last two tools on the left-hand side are the View tool and the Zoom tool, and two of these I never use. but I'll show you anyway. When you click on the View tool, shortcut is H, you could just click and drag around the page like this. I usually do this with my trackpad without this View tool. Moving on to the Zoom tool. Shortcut for this one is Z, and you can see all the shortcuts to zoom in and out, but I'll just click on it once, and each time you tap or click, you zoom in a little bit. I never use that one either, because usually if I want to do that, I'll do it with the trackpad, or on my keyboard I can just press Command and plus and I can zoom in, Command and minus, and I zoom out. And I want to quickly go over the Boolean operations, and they can be found in the toolbar at the top here, and they work much like the shape builder tool, where you can add a couple of shapes together, like combine them, or you can subtract one shape from another shape. So let's just go through each one very quickly to show you how it works. So first of all, you'd have to select both the shapes and then go up and select add. Now this one adds them together, of course. And of course, subtract will just subtract this portion from the square underneath. So going up, clicking subtract, and it subtracted that. Intersect, if we select both of them, go up to intersect, and I click on that, we're just left with a portion of that circle. And this one, XOR, which I used to pronounce XOR, that's actually how you say it apparently, XOR. I'm going to test this one out, so up we go. XOR, click on it, and it's basically just subtracted that middle portion there. And the last one, divide, if I go up, select it. Okay, now I'm going to select divide. When I click on it, it all looks the same, but actually it's divided them into individual shapes there. So that is the Boolean operations that you can find in the toolbar above. Okay, let's cover something a little bit more fun. That's quick grids. And we can create a grid in just a couple of taps. So we'll start off by selecting the rectangle tool. And what I'm going to do is just click and drag out a square like this. And before I let go, I will tap on the arrow key on my keyboard. I'll just tap the right arrow key, and I can tap it again, and the more times I tap it, the more duplicates I get. If I then hold down the right arrow key, it creates a little gap in between. And you guessed it, if I press the down arrow key, I will get a duplicate underneath, and if I hold down, I will create a gap as well. So I'll just press that once more and let go. And now you see I have a quick grid. And by the way, this works with any of the shapes over here. Quick grids. And this is a fun tool. It's called Move/Duplicate. And this one's a little bit hidden, but it will basically allow you to make duplicates and move them in kind of any way you want. You have a lot of control here. So let me show you how it works. I've drawn my square. It's got a little bit of a gradient on it. I will just press return on the keyboard and up pops this panel here. If I just tap on the horizontal name here and drag left and right, you can see the box moving left and right. And nothing really is happening other than that. But where the magic happens is when you click on duplicate. And down here, number of copies, I'm just going to type, well, I'm just going to drag it till it says 10. And we'll continue playing with these values here. So vertical, I'll click on that. You can see there's lots of duplicates here. And I can go distance. So they're a bit further apart. And then I can go angle. So it's kind of like a clock. You see, it's very easy to manipulate lots of versions of your shape. And I can go scale, so maybe it gets smaller, maybe it gets bigger, and you can play around with this to your heart's content. It's really cool. Okay, moving on. If you want to precisely align a box to the center of the document, or maybe right next to another box, or perhaps you want to make sure that your heading is centered, well then snapping is going to help you. So the snapping options are in the toolbar at the top there. We can toggle it on, it's just this magnet icon. If I click on the drop down arrow, you can see there's many options here. We can snap to guides, which I'll show you in a second. We can snap to the spread, and there's many options, but you also have presets. So depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a page layout, you can select this one and all those options underneath will change. If you are creating an object, maybe you can select this one and different options will be checked or unchecked, okay? But I'm going to leave it as it is, as you see here, and keep the snapping on. Now let's test out what it's going to do. So I'm going to align this to the yellow box, and you can see it's kind of snapping right against it with that green line, and it's showing on the horizontal the red line, which is letting me know that they are properly aligned. And without that, I'll just toggle it off. Without that, this will happen, and I won't know if it's properly aligned or not. So I'll just toggle it back on again, and with the snapping, let's see if it is in the center. Okay, that's the center. Let me delete those two there and we'll just see. Yes, so that is the center of the document, so the snapping has helped me do that. Another tool that will help you when designing and laying out your design are grids. So to activate it, there is a shortcut. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it should appear now. There we go. So you can activate that by going up to View, Grid and Axis. Click on that, and then here you'll see it says Show Grid. When I click on that, let me zoom in a little bit more, you can see the grid crisscrossing all over the place, and the grid lines, you can change the color of those if they're a bit too faint and the opacity. And you've got a few modes. Right now it's on automatic. If you want to switch over to a basic one, it's more of a basic grid, and it goes to advanced. Now I have made an in-depth tutorial on this grid and snapping axis on version 2, which is still relevant because it hasn't really changed, so go and check that out. But this is just to get an understanding of what all of this does, okay? You also have some presets up here, but right now we'll just leave it on automatic and press close. So now I will just try to align this to the grid, and you can see when I go to the left hand side it slightly turns green, and on the horizontal it turns red. So I can kind of keep within this grid. Let me just scale it up a little bit more. Yeah, something like that. And then from here I can make duplicates and I will know it will fit into that grid perfectly like that. So grids come in very handy, and remember, it's all about the snapping. So if you go to the snapping options, you can see it says snap to grid. So that one is on. That's why it's working right now. To help you align your design properly, you can also use guides and a ruler. Starting off with the guides, let's go up to View and then click on Guides. Now you've got this panel here. You can add horizontal guides and vertical guides. Let's start off there. So I'll click this little button here, that's added a horizontal one, and I'll click this one and that's added a vertical one. So you can see them there in the background, okay? So with this, I can grab my shape here, and snapping is turned on, and snap to guides is currently on as well. Snap to guides. And now those guides are almost acting like a little magnet for my square, so I can properly align that where I want. Maybe I want to align it directly in the center. There we go. Let's go back to that setting again, to guides. And you also have column guides, so you can add columns and rows as well. So I'll just quickly drag this up so you can see what it's doing, and I'll drag up the rows as well. And now you can see we've got kind of a little grid going on there. You can change the color of these, and you can add margins and so on. So this could be very helpful. I'll just delete all of those, remove all guides, and I'll just bring this back down again. And press close. So the ruler, let's activate that. We can go up to View, Show, and then Rulers. Command R is the shortcut. And now we have a ruler on the outside. This is a 1920 by 1080 document, pixels that is, and it's showing that, as you can see. I usually have this on all the time whenever I'm designing. Okay, let's get into the effects tool. And with this, you can basically stylize your design further. So we'll start off with using this square over here. There's a couple of ways of getting there, okay? On the right-hand side, there's Quick Effects over here, and you can see all of the options. But I will tap on this button down here, the little Layer Effects button. So now that I've chosen that, you can see there's a panel that's popped up, and there's loads of options. We'll just start off with the top one. I'll click on Bevel and Emboss, and there's different types you can choose. I'll just keep it on Inner for now, and I can drag this radius up or down, and you can see what's happening on that square over there. I can soften it or harden it a little bit, and I can change the direction, okay? And also if you click on Profile, you can change it so it's a little bit more drastic, a little bit more sharp, and many options to play around with there. So that's just one of the layer effects. And one thing I want to note though, is when you scale your object, once the effect is applied, if I scale down like this, you can see the effect doesn't really scale well with it. Maybe this is what you want, but I'm going to show you how to scale it properly. Go to Scale with Object. So if I select that there, and now I go to Scale again, it doesn't really change at all. So this is a useful thing to note. Okay, let's try a different one out. The circle. I will click on Inner Glow maybe, and then I'll just drag that up the radius so it's kind of glowing on the inside there, on the inner part that is. In fact, let me click on 3D and we'll try that one out. So look, it's like a sphere, or it's like a little puck or a frisbee or something like that. And you've got plenty of options. So get creative and play around with that. And the last one, effects. We'll actually place it on a typable word here. Let's go to outer shadow. So I'll just click on that, and I'll just drag up the radius. You can see it kind of peeking through. And in fact, I want to offset that a little bit more. So I'll click on offset and drag that up. And you see the direction it's going. I can change that by just changing the angle like this. Okay, that's layer effects. And you also have the styles panel, where you can basically add a style to an object in just one click. So if you go over here to this section and click on styles, underneath the default style, you can just simply click once and you've got a style applied. And look, you can just cycle through them, one click, very easy to do. And I've created my own one as well, Tropical Creator Kit Styles, Artistwright. So I'll just select that and just cycle through a few of them. So you can create your very own styles also. And I've made a tutorial on this, so go check it out on my channel. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. And we have the swatches panel just up there next to the color tab. And this is useful to use when you want to be consistent and selective with your color choice. So let's say you're creating a design that only has 3 colors in it, and you want to be selective about those colors, then you'd create your own swatch palette and name it. And then you just have 3 colors in here. So then you'd kind of select your shape and apply very quickly. Select your shape, apply it quickly, and so on and so forth. So this is the default colors swatch here, but there is also gradients and grays, and I've even made my own one here, AW frosting. There's one from Frankentuna over there. So you can create your own one just by clicking this drop down arrow and selecting add document palette. I've already made a tutorial for this, so go check it out on my page, and let's move on. And we also have the appearance panel, which is just at the top right here. So if we concentrate on this circle, I have a fill and a pink stroke. And in the appearance panel, you can see the fill and the stroke. The cool thing with this is when you select your shape, you can add additional fills and strokes. So I'll just add an additional stroke here, and there it is. So I'll just change the thickness of that just by dragging up this width, and I'll add a color to it as well. Maybe I'll make this a slightly different color and increase the thickness even more, and you can see it coming out there. And from here, it's kind of like a layer stack. I can just drag this one to the bottom, and now you can see I have 2 strokes there. That's the basics of the appearance panel. We also have the assets panel in Affinity, and this is really useful for if you want to store and organize design elements that you might reuse time and time again. So how we find it is we go to Window, go down to General, and then Assets. And this is the assets panel, and I have many groups of assets here that I can use. So we'll just stick to Affinity V3 from now. This is my one. I've recreated all of these icons. So let's say I'm making a thumbnail and I might want to use one of the icons. I could just click and drag it out like this. That's really big, isn't it? And I can resize it because it's still a vector. And it's that easy. I don't have to go rummaging around in my hard drive to find where I saved that file. Okay, that's the assets panel. We also have symbols, and symbols is cool because you can copy and synchronize one design across your entire document. Let me show you how it works. So if I go ahead and go to Window, go down to Vector and then Symbols, you see this pops up here. I can select this design. I can go up to Create, and now I have a symbol in here, and I can drag out a few more copies. And if I go ahead and change this one here, let's change the color. You see all of them change at the same time. Very cool. And there's a couple of options at the top in the toolbar just around here, and that is the vector view mode and pixel view mode. And essentially it will allow you to preview different output conditions. So if I was going to be exporting this to a vector-based format, then the vector view mode is where I'd want to be. So if I zoom in, you can see it's crisp and clean, just like a vector should be. But if I was going to export this to a JPEG, for instance, and remember this is a 1920 by 1080 pixel document, then I could go up to pixel view mode, click on that, and now I'll zoom in and I'll see what it would actually look like at that size once it's exported. So if you ever find yourself designing and thinking, I'm sure vectors are supposed to be smoother than this, then just switch over to the vector view mode and voila. Okay, the export options. You finished your design and now it's time to export it to whatever file type you want. You have 3 options to export your design. The first one being File, export, and then export. And you've got this panel that opens up with a little preview of your design. And you can see on the left-hand side all the different file formats. And when you click on them, you'll have a few presets inside. And whichever one you tap on the right-hand side will be all the settings for that. So you can make any changes you want and then go to export. But look how many different file formats there are. There are a lot. So that's one way of exporting. The second way to export is to use the quick export panel, which is just at the top right here. You can see it says export JPEG, but if I click on this little arrow here, more options are available. So you've got PNG and PDF. But if I click on this little plus button here, you can see a few of them are toggled on and a few are toggled off. So whichever one you want, you just toggle it on and it will appear up here. And the third way to export is to use Slice Studio, and this one is useful if you want to batch export individual designs that are on your document. So it works in slices. So this would be a slice, this butterfly, and the right butterfly would also be a slice, and I can export them in whichever file format I want. Let me just quickly show you how it works. So up to the studios, click on Studio Manager, go to the Slice Studio, toggle that on, and go ahead and select it. And if we go to export layers here, you can see a couple of butterflies, and then I've got my heading. I just want to export these two butterflies individually. So you see, as I select them, there's a little box that appears around the butterflies. I'll just hold Shift and select both of them. And then I'll click on Create Slice. Once I've done that, I can go over to Slices, and you can see Butterfly 1, Butterfly 2, and down here it says Export Slices 2. So now all I have to do is decide which file format I want and click Export. So right now it's on PNG. If I wanted to also export them as JPEGs, I just press this little plus button here, and I would decide maybe this one can be a JPEG, and then I can go ahead and export them, and it will export as a JPEG and a PNG. So that's the basics of this Slice Studio. And let's briefly cover the app settings, as there may be a few settings that you wish to change. So I'm in the Move tool right now, so in the context toolbar you can see App Settings. I'm going to click on it, and we start off in General. Some of these have been toggled off, some of them are on by default. So one of the ones I changed was Switch Studio based on file type. And if this one is toggled on, basically, if you open up a JPEG in Affinity, it will switch to Pixel Studio. If you open up a vector format, it will open up in Vector. I just turned that off because I want Affinity always to start in Vector Studio, and then I'll decide when I want to switch. If we go down to User Interface, you can change how your user interface looks, because we don't have light mode in Affinity version 3, at least right now. So I changed it from the background gray level. It was a bit dark before, like that. You see behind the artboard, and if I drag it up, it's a lot brighter. And you can change lots of different areas of the UI to suit your eyes. And you've got a few more options down here. Another one I toggled off was default to pixel view for images. And if we look up in the toolbar, it's these two options I explained earlier, pixel view mode and vector view mode. So it would default to pixel view when I was viewing an image. I'd like to just decide which mode I want to be in, so I toggled that off and just kept it in vector view mode. And also you may want to have a look at the shortcuts, or even add some of your own shortcuts. So you can see under here it's vector, and let's just say I go to file, you can see all of the different shortcuts here, and you could just change them and add your own ones. So once you get a little bit more used to using Affinity, go in there and make any changes that you feel necessary. And that marks the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know in the comments section below. And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about Affinity, check out my channel. It's loaded full of videos all on that subject. So until next time, see you on the next video.